In the 1997 trial of Vincent Gigante for racketeering and murder, the prosecution brought out their superstar witness, former Gambino Family Underboss, Salvatore Sammy The Bull Gravano. Gravano, the man who had helped send John Gotti to prison, now had the chance to put the boss of the powerful Genovese family behind bars. So, what transpired when Sammy the Bull took the stand? Let's check it out. Welcome to OC Shorts, bringing you detailed historical snapshots of the American Mafia and other organised crime. Feel free to subscribe if you like that sort of thing. Today we're going to take a quick look at the time when Sammy the Bull Gravano took the stand at the trial of Vincent Chin Gigante, as well as exploring some of the other interesting incidents that occurred at the trial of the man dubbed the Oddfather. The trial of Vincent Gigante on racketeering and murder charges started on the 25th of June 1997. Gigante was pushed into court each day in a wheelchair by his priest brother, Father Louis Gigante. The Chin was at the time still keeping up his act of mental illness. The first turncoat mob witness that the prosecution brought to the stand was former Lucchese captain Fat Pete Chiodo. The press dubbed this the Battle of the Wheelchairs, as both Chiodo and Gigante were wheelchair bound throughout their appearances in court. Chiodo testified that he had driven his mob superiors, Anthony Casso and Vic Amuso, to a commission meeting that Gigante had attended. Fat Pete testified that Gigante had apologised for dressing in a bathrobe. Chiodo, however, had not actually been present in the actual meeting. Fat Pete then stated that he next met Chin after they were arrested in 1990 for their connection with the famous Windows case. However, Chiodo couldn't offer anything concrete to tie Chin Gigante to any murders, and he wasn't able to state that he had had any direct business discussions with the secretive Genovese boss. The next mobster turned informer that the government produced at the trial was former Philadelphia underboss Philip Crazy Phil Leonetti. However, Crazy Phil would also testify that he had not personally had any direct contact with Gigante, and any knowledge that he had of the Chin had come from discussions with his uncle, Philadelphia boss Nicky Scarfo. Following Leonetti was the man who had been labelled the government's star witness, Salvatore Sammy the Bull Gravano, the former underboss for the Gambino Crime Family. He would take the stand on July the 10th, 1997. Gravano testifying was important for the prosecution because, unlike the two previous mob witnesses, Sammy the Bull had actually had direct business dealings with Vincent Gigante. Interestingly, as part of his deal, it is alleged that Gravano didn't actually have to testify in this trial, but he had been convinced to do so by his FBI handlers. Although allegedly Judge Weinstein had stated that he would have forced Gravano to testify. Gravano took the stand in a grey double-breasted suit, and he was greeted by deathly stares from not only Gigante's supporters, but also from family members of some of Gravano's previous victims. It is suggested that the Gigante contingent even gave up their seats in the front row, so that the likes of Laura Garofalo and Cindy DiBernardo, whose fathers had been killed in hits ordered by Gotti but arranged by Gravano, could glare at Sammy the Bull. Gravano would testify that he first met Gigante in 1976 at the Triangle Social Club in Greenwich Village. Gravano had been trying to do business with a union that the Genovese family controlled. Sammy the Bull would state that at the time Gigante was consigliere of the family, and he mediated the dispute which allowed Gravano to do business with the union. Prosecutor Andrew Weissman questioned Gravano. Was there anything unusual about Mr. Gigante's behaviour? Gravano. His behaviour? No. Weissman continued. Anything unusual about his appearance? Gravano replied. His dress. He had a little bit of a beard, 3 or 4 day growth. He had pyjamas and a robe on, and slippers. Other than that, no. At a second meeting in Staten Island, this time Gravano didn't attend, but had stood guard outside. Sammy the Bull testified that he had overheard Gigante making a complaint about the meeting. Chin said, these meetings would end up putting everyone in prison. The commission should only meet to take a life or save a life. Throughout Gravano's testimony, onlookers said that occasionally it appeared that Gigante was looking right at Sammy the Bull, and even appeared to be listening. However, the Chin's lawyers insisted that their client was oblivious to the proceedings. Gravano testified that the conspirators against Paul Castellano hadn't approached the Genovese family about their plan to whack Big Paul. He said of Gigante and Castellano, they had a real close relationship. We didn't think he would go for it. Gravano would go on to identify Vincent Gigante as a man that on 4 occasions he had sat down with to discuss mob business. The last time being at a commission meeting in 1988. Prosecutor Andrew Weissman asked Gravano, do you see, as you look around the courtroom today, the man who represented the Genovese family at these meetings? Gravano replied, do I see him? Yes. He's with the second man from the left, and then pointed a finger at the 69-year-old Gigante sat in a wheelchair. Next, it was the turn of Gigante's defense attorney, Michael Marinaccio, to grill Sammy the Bull. Marinaccio focused on Gravano's criminal career and the 19 murders that he had admitted to, repeatedly referring to Sammy the Bull's book Underboss, written by Peter Maas in conjunction with Gravano. Marinaccio said, on page 126, you say, deception is at the core of a clean mob hit. Deception, that's something you were very good at. I guess, Gravano replied. Deception all around? Marinaccio asked. Yes, replied Gravano. And you were at the centre of it? Asked the lawyer. I'm at the trigger end, Gravano stated. Gravano then stated how he had heard about Vincent Gigante becoming the official boss of the Genovese family in 1981, recalling how he'd been in Gambino boss Paul Castellano's Staten Island mansion. I was in Paul's house when word came. Tommy Bilotti brought it in. Tommy said that Fat Tony had a stroke and stepped down, and Chin was made the boss. I had it at the table, out of Tommy's mouth. Gigante's lawyer then took the opportunity to cast a shadow of doubt on Gravano's account, along with re-emphasising Sammy the Bull's murderous nature. We can't ask Tommy Bilotti, because he's dead. Yeah, replied Gravano. Marinaccio continued. We can't ask Paul Castellano, because he's dead. Yeah, Gravano said again. And you were involved in plots to kill both. Yes, Gravano confirmed. Marinaccio would continue his questions, trying to discredit Gravano as a witness. And when the legitimacy of his testimony was questioned, Gravano retorted, there's no need for me to bob and weave and not tell you the truth, when you know the government's not after you. A large part of Marinaccio's grilling of Gravano was connected with how he had profited from the tales of his murders and crimes after the publication of his book Underboss, written by Peter Maas. One newspaper reported, Mafia turncoat Salvatore Sammy the Bull Gravano testified yesterday that he was paid $250,000 advance for his mob tell-all, and hopes to clear a cool $1 million by hawking the movie rights. The bombshell admission infuriated relatives of some of Gravano's 19 victims, who slammed the admitted hitman and pledged to sue him for every cent. Gravano reluctantly revealed details of his windfall while testifying for the prosecution at the racketeering and murder trial of Vincent Chin Gigante, the alleged leader of the powerful Genovese crime family. In the US, the Son of Sam law tries to ensure that criminals don't profit from the publicity of their crimes, and that any money earned is seized and used to compensate the criminals' victims. Gigante's lawyer would also read from a transcript of a conversation that John Gotti had with another mobster in the Ravenite Social Club on December the 12th, 1989. In the Gotti conversation, Gravano's many business interests were discussed. Gravano interjected from the stand. "Busy little guy, huh?" A comment that had the courtroom break out into laughter. Gigante's lawyer continued reading from the transcript, including a part where John Gotti got angry and said to the other mobster about busting him, Sammy, tomorrow. On hearing this, Gravano retorted, "Tomorrow never came," indicating that when it came to him and Gotti, the former underboss had the last laugh. After he finished his testimony and outside the courthouse, Vincent Gigante's daughter Yolanda launched a scathing attack on Gravano to the press. "If you ask me, this is just a promotional stop. He's a pathological liar and a psychotic murderer." The prosecution would then bring out mob turncoat and former Lucchese acting boss Little Al Diaco. When cross-examined by Gigante's lawyer, Little Al got angry when Marinaccio pointed out that Diaco's FBI debriefing after he had turned government witness had no mention of Vincent Gigante. Marinaccio stated, "So you're saying the agents made a mistake? I don't know what they put in their reports. I'm telling you what I said. What they do is their business," Diaco said. The main position from the perspective of the prosecution was that Little Al Diaco was another mob witness who stated that Vincent Gigante's mental illness was just an act. One prosecutor asked Little Al, "Is there any doubt in your mind that Vincent Gigante was of sound mind up until 1991? "No doubt," Diaco firmly responded. The most damaging witness against Gigante was his former underling, Peter Savino, a man who testified that he had had face-to-face meetings with the Chin 20 to 30 times. Savino, who by this time was terminally ill and appeared in court via video link, was the one mob witness who appeared to credibly and directly link Vincent Gigante to one of the 7 murders he was charged with. Savino testified, "Vincent told me Jerry Pupper was killed for shaking down the drug money." A late addition to the prosecution's witness list was none other than Vincent Gigante's right-hand man and underboss, Venero Benny Eggs Mangano. Benny Eggs was only a few years into a 15-year sentence for racketeering, but Mangano was not a turncoat witness. The prosecution were just hoping that the 76-year-old wise guy might trip up under questioning. Benny Eggs had refused to testify, but was forced to the stand. Unlike the previous mobsters at the trial, who had become government witnesses and spoke freely about their crimes and their knowledge of Gigante, Venero Mangano was the embodiment of Cosa Nostra, and loyal to his boss and friend. Benny Eggs would deliver a memorable exchange with one of the prosecution's attorneys. "What do you want to do? Shoot me? Shoot me. But I'm not going to answer any questions. I'm tired of these charades. You gave me 15 years already. I'm 76. Where am I going?" It was obvious that Benny Eggs Mangano was not going to be helpful in the slightest. One newspaper published excerpts of his defiant appearance on the stand. "Did you have a nickname, Benny Eggs?" "I refuse to answer under my Fifth Amendment rights." "Were you underboss of the Genovese family?" "I refuse to answer under my Fifth Amendment rights. Anything else that you're going to ask me, I say the same thing. I don't feel good, and I'm looking to go back." "Mr. Mangano, would you refuse to answer all questions I ask?" "All questions. Anything you want to ask me." "I refuse to answer anything you ask. I don't appreciate you going to the press and saying that I was cooperating. If you could make innuendos, certainly I can too. Mr. Mangano, are you a member of the Genovese family of La Cosa Nostra? Stop wasting the court's time. You're not making me a part of this charade here, from a mental case and a physical case like they've done to me. So I'm not going to answer any questions whether you dance, whether you put me in prison. So, do whatever you want. Your Honour, I don't mean to be disrespectful to the court. I understand. Do whatever yous want. I don't want to answer nothing no more. I don't want to be part of this charade. Ultimately, it can be said that Gravano's appearance on the stand did not have the impact like he had had when bringing down John Gotti. And that it was Peter Savino's testimony regarding Gigante's involvement in racketeering, specifically the Windows case, that did the damage. Gigante had been on trial for racketeering and his involvement in 7 murders. He was cleared of all 7 murders, but found guilty of racketeering and conspiracy to commit murder. Gigante was sentenced to 12 years and fined $1.25 million. Vincent Gigante would die in prison 8 years later on December the 19th, 2005. At the time of his death, he was 77 years old. I hope you found that interesting. Thanks for watching.